you're going to hate me saying this. I started running and I started getting this hip pain, and I've gone, mate, I must not be warming up properly because I never get hip pain, I never get leg pain, and you go, oh no, I'll leave it. So did my running session, you kind of ignore it. You're running, everything else is hurting, so you go, the pain that you're actually feeling is not there. And then it would have been 2 or 3 weeks, and I've gone, this just isn't getting better. And my warm-up was getting longer and longer and longer every time because you go, I just need to, all the glute activation, all the stuff you need to be doing. And I was like, still not getting better. And I remember going for a run with my mum. We went for about 6Ks and we were halfway through, and I was like,
only halfway through 6Ks?
We were like 3K. We did kind of like a loop around.
Oh, shit.
And my mum can run for days, so running with her is okay, but she can just run and run and run, whereas I'm like 6Ks is about my limit if I haven't run long.
That's about 5.5 2Ks too many for me.
Me too, but apparently I have to be able to run 6Ks these days. So I was running with mum, and I've got this like really bad like hip pain at the front, and gone like, we're going to need to turn around. And thank God she goes, yeah, we're turning around now. We're going to on our way back, and the 3Ks back was agony, and the best thing mum told me, just stick a spiky ball in it, it'll be fine. And you go, okay. So I did that for a week, and still not getting better. Went to the physio.
So how long has that been now?
That was probably 4 weeks.
4 weeks, so when you first kind of had that.
Yep, and then I went to the physio, and it was actually really funny because we started learning about all the tests you do for this condition that I ended up having called FAI, and none of those tests, obviously you do it with your student friends, and none of those tests were positive in me, so you go, great. And so then she started doing them on me, and I just turned around and looked at her, I was like, I've done these tests and I was negative, and she goes, you are more beyond positive than I should have been. All like, they do lots of hip movements, putting them in overpressure, so they push quite hard to try and bring on the pain, and I was just in agony. And she's gone, this is what I think it is. It could be FAI, which is where you've got two bones that kind of hit each other continually.
So FAI stands for?
Femoroacetabular impingement. So, everyone can have a degree of it, but it just depends if you do activities that aggravate it.
Like running.
In my case. And then she said it could be FAI, or it could be FAI and a labral tear, which is which the labrum in the hip lines the hip socket. So she goes, it probably won't be that. Let's just rehab it for FAI. So all that is just glute strength, hip flexor strength, kind of just global strength in lower limb. So I did that.
Did you pull back running? Yeah.
Well, that's what made it sore. So the physio goes, let's stop that. So 4 weeks stopped running. And
that's all during COVID as well. So it was
during COVID. So I
can't really go to the gym and
I did a 1-on-1 Pilates class with my physio. Physio Pilates is called clinical supervised exercise because it gets rebated by the health insurance. So you do Pilates rehab. I was doing 1-on-1 rehab with my physio, and we just did kind of everything while you're doing, like, your legs get tired, you do arms as well, just to get globally fit as well. And I was quite lucky. My mum owns a gym, so she was able to bring home some weights and things that I could do at home as well. Just so she said, while you're not here for the 2 days, do this kind of stuff. Gave me, the list of exercises that a physio usually gives you. And then I went back, and she goes, let's just reassess after 4 weeks. I went back, in the 4 weeks, and we did another assessment, and it was worse. And she was like,
really?
Yeah, it just, the pain hadn't subsided, and I could find, like, running, you bring your knee up to about 90. I couldn't hold that there without being in pain. And she was like, let's get a scan. And she said before we'd started this 4-week block, it could be this and we might need a scan, but I don't want to scan you and to find out that I could have rehabbed something and you waste $400 on a scan, MRI.
And then something comes up, something could show in the scan that's, actually...
That's a muscular injury that she could have fixed.
Exactly.
And then I went, I ended up going, she sent me off for a referral to the sports doctor. I had an MRI in that time. Then she goes, go see sports doctor. She told me to go see someone else, but my dad, being at Freo, he got me into Ken Withers, who's their sports doctor. Like, the next day I rang him and I was like, I've got my MRI, need to see sports doctor. And he was like, go see Ken. Went and saw him, and he did the same tests that Claire did, and I just grimacing. I just knew. He goes, I need to do these tests, and I'm like, you don't need to do them because it hurts, but he needed to see it, obviously. And then sent me off to the surgeon pretty quickly. Went and saw the surgeon.
Wow.
With the scan, and he was like, yep, labral tear, which is the worst case scenario. And I had really bad FAI in my right hip, which is my problematic one, and then I have a little bit in the left, but nothing. I've had no injuries with that. So that,
was there an incidence where it just...
No, that's the funny thing. Most people ask, how did you do it? And you go, I think over time, with this kind of injury, I think netball probably made the two bony bumps a bit worse, because if you're hitting them together, they're just going to keep growing. You
'cause
break
there's
them down a little. You break them down a bit,
breaking.
bones grow back, and they obviously got so bad, and the cartilage was getting pinched, and the hole was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and inflammation, all that kind of stuff happens, and it just, boom, you know, you've got lots of pain and won't go away. Running just kind of exacerbates that, more inflamed. So I went and saw him, and he was like, yep, labral tear, and I'm just like, what do I do? And I've heard of no one that's had this, you know, like
really?
hip labral tear, heard of no one, and you go, oh, this is a bit weird. Like, what do I do for this? And what's the, you know, physio said that there could be surgery, there couldn't be surgery, there could be just cortisone injections. We'll just see what happens. And went in, saw him, and he was like, it's actually really common. And I just looked
you hear a lot about amongst like a lot of lifters, like Olympic lifters, and anyone who's like in that deep squatting and does